you. Thank you all for coming out on this beautiful New England evening. We New Englanders are tough. A little snow is not going to stop us, huh? Let me thank Jonathan Fishman and Brett Hughes and Kat Wright, the indomitable soul man, Emily Rodakowski, fantastic Negrito, Brendan Hines, Matt Nathanson, Big Data, Kanur Uja, Young the Giant, Edward Sharp, and the Magnetic Zeros. Thank you all. Hey guys, thank you. Look, what I want to say is something pretty simple and straightforward. And that is that as the former chairman of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs, I can tell you that men and women have put their lives on the line throughout the history of our country to defend democracy. Now, yesterday was the Super Bowl, and millions of people were spectators watching a great football game. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy, in fact, is an extremely radical idea. And what it is what it says is that all people, not just kings and queens and czars and billionaires, but all people have a right to determine the future of their country. That's what it means. Now, let me be very frank and tell you, there are people who are very wealthy, who are very powerful, who control a lot of what goes on in our economy and political life. They don't want you to vote. They don't want you to be thinking about the important issues facing our country. They would like things to remain as they are, where big money is able to buy elections. But they also think, by the way, that young people are not going to participate in the political process. Every article I read in the paper says, well, young people may come out to a concert, they may come out to a rally, but it's really too much effort on their part to go out and vote. I don't believe that. And I believe that you understand that while the decisions that are made in Washington today impact every American, they impact the younger generation even more, because you are going to have to live with those decisions for the next 60, 70, God willing, 80 years. And that is why it is imperative that you and your friends do get involved in the political process. And let me be very honest in saying this. Of course, I'm here to ask for your support. But if people here are not supporting me, people want to vote for other candidates, that's fine. But what is most important is that we do not have an election like we did last November, where 80% of young people did not vote. That cannot, must not happen again. Now, the reason why our campaign is doing as well as it is, and I want to remind you that when we began this campaign here in New Hampshire, we were 30, 40 points behind. But the reason that we are doing so well is I think we are touching on the issues that make sense to the American people, and we're treating the people with respect and intelligence. And what we're saying is that in this great country, we cannot continue to have a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires buy elections. I am very proud to tell you that I am the only candidate running for the Democratic nomination who does not have a super PAC. that is not raising millions of dollars from Wall Street, but has raised from over 1 million Americans 3.5 million individual contributions, averaging $27 apiece. To paraphrase Abraham Lincoln, this is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. And this is a campaign which says not only can we tolerate a corrupt campaign finance system which is undermining American democracy, we cannot continue a rigged economy in which working people are working longer hours for lower wages while almost all of the new income and wealth is going to the top 1%. That's wrong. It is immoral, it is unsustainable, and it's not the American way that the top 0.1% should own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. So together, what we are going to create, and I know this is a radical idea, but we are going to create an economy that works for the middle class of this country, not just the 1%. We are going to raise the minimum wage, not the $7.25 an hour starvation minimum wage we have now, but we're going to raise that to a living wage, $15 an hour over the next few years. We are going to have pay equity for women workers. We are going to create millions of decent paying jobs because we're not going to be firing teachers, we're going to be hiring teachers, we're going to be rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, our roads and our bridges and our water systems and our wastewater plants. And when we do that, we're going to create millions of decent paying jobs. And I'll tell you what else we are going to do. And this sounds like a radical idea, but it truly is not. As all of you know, 150 years ago, people in this country fought for something that was really extraordinary. What they said is that we working people do not want to see our kids having to work in factories or on farms. We want all children, regardless of their income, to be able to get a free public education. And what that meant way back then was first grade through 12th grade. And that was a pretty revolutionary breakthrough. But all of you know that the world has changed in the last 100 years. And that today, in the year 2016, when we talk about public education, it cannot just be first grade through 12th grade. What we have got to understand is that in many ways, a college degree today is the equivalent of what a high school degree was 50 years ago. And that is why, together, we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. That is what public education should mean in the year 2016. And we're going to deal with another very serious problem in this country: the insanity of millions of young people and some people not quite so young, who are struggling under incredibly heavy loads of student debt. Anybody here with student debt? Need I say more? Today, just today, a few hours ago, spoke at a meeting, a woman raised her hand, $350,000 in debt. What was her crime? She wanted to become a doctor. Spoke to a woman in Iowa, $400,000 in debt because she wanted to become a dentist. Spoke to college students all over this country, $50,000, $80,000 in debt. People should not be punished for decades for the crime of trying to get an education. We should be making it easier for people to get an education. We should be encouraging people to get an education, not making it harder and not forcing people to pay 20, 25% of their income paying it back on student debt. I am going to tell them. Now, people say, in America, we should think small. We should not have a vision. Well, making public colleges and universities tuition-free, reducing significantly student debt, that's not a radical idea. That's not a radical idea. It already exists in many countries around the world, and everybody understands that for us to succeed, we need the best educated workforce in the world. Now, some people, my critics, come up and they say, well, Bernie, that's a great idea. You're like Santa Claus. You're giving away all these free things. Doing what I propose is not free. It is expensive, about $70 billion a year. How are we going to pay for it? I will tell you how we're going to pay for this proposal. When the greed and recklessness and illegal behavior on Wall Street nearly destroyed our economy, and when Wall Street came running to Congress for a bailout, the middle class gave them their bailout. Now it is Wall Street's time to help the middle class. And that is why we're going to pay for this proposal through a tax on Wall Street speculation. There are Republican candidates running all over the state who talk about family values. You understand what their so-called family values are, and those values, in their view, are that no woman in this arena tonight, no woman in New Hampshire, no woman in America should have the right to control her own body. We disagree. Their family values suggest, and they have voted to defund Planned Parenthood. I believe we should increase funding for Planned Parenthood. Their family values are to tell our gay brothers and sisters they can't get married. I disagree. And there's another remarkable thing about many of my Republican colleagues who are running all over this state. Really remarkable. And that is that when the virtually entire scientific community is telling us that climate change is real, that it is caused by human activity, that climate change is already causing major, major problems in our country and around the world, these Republicans refuse to listen to science. And in a very, very deep sense, when you think about it, if you do not allow science to determine public policy, you got some serious problems. Now, my own view is that the United States has got to lead the world in working with China, Russia, India, countries all over the world, to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not worth damaging this planet for our children and our grandchildren. That yes, we are going to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energies like wind, solar, geothermal, and other technologies. Now, here's a simple truth. There is nothing that I have been talking about in the many meetings that we've held here in New Hampshire. And by the way, with tonight's meeting, we will have talked to some 40,000 people in New Hampshire who have come out to our town meetings and our rallies. That's a lot of people. And there's nothing that we have proposed that is radical, that is pie in the sky, that's utopian. But here is the truth, that we will not accomplish these goals unless millions of people, many of whom have given up on the political process, many young people who are not participating in the political process, unless we change that and create what I call a political revolution. And all that that means, it's not a rhetorical statement, all that it means is that we need millions and tens of millions of people to stand up and say loudly and clearly that enough is enough, that our government in this great country belongs to all of the people, not just a handful of wealthy campaign contributors. Tomorrow is a very big day. It is the first primary in the presidential political process in this country. The eyes of America will be on New Hampshire. I hope very much that you come out to vote. I hope that you bring your friends and family out to vote. And that I hope at the end of tonight, New Hampshire will have told America that we are no longer accepting establishment politics or establishment economics, that we want this country to move forward in a different direction. Thank you all very much.